All right. Welcome, everyone, to Mythstorie, a podcast about myths and history. I am one of your hosts, Bryant, with my permanent guest, co-creator, awesome host with me, Cammy. Welcome back, Cammy.
Thanks. Welcome to you as well, Brian.
Thanks. All right. So, Mythstorie, every week, hit a new topic. We've been on a nice roll of the Greco-Roman nature. We're going to keep that going just for a little bit longer. Today, we're talking about the lesser-known figure of Autolycus. Lycos, if you want to go crazy with it. He was reportedly the son of Hermes and granddaddy to big old Odysseus, who you probably are more aware of than Autolycus. Cammy, where did you think of this, Cammy?
So yeah, well, I call him Autolycus, but it's
sorry, yeah.
No, that's okay. Your pronunciation is probably correct though. I honestly first heard of him on Xena Warrior Princess. I didn't really watch the show, but my ex did.
Sure. No, he on his like little Wikipedia page, like in other media, insanely in a bunch of stuff for being as unimportant as he is. I was so surprised. I mean, he's not, this on Theoi, one of our favorite sources. He doesn't even have his own page. He's just like in the Hermes family page mentioned. That's it.
Sure.
They're just like, here's something about him. He was written about by some sources. I'll of course get into that after Cammy gives us a story about him. But it was just really funny to see so many things. And yeah, I do remember Xena Warrior Princess being in there. So that's great.
Who's the actor? Bruce Campbell.
Yes, that was it. That made me laugh. Yeah, Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead fame played him. Which is great because Autolycus, he's kind of a schmuck, and Bruce Campbell, great schmuck reenactor. I'm sure he'd agree. So God, it's insane. On Wikipedia, his the biggest section is in popular culture. I mean, this dude is in so much. It's really wild. It's.
Well, everybody loves that roguish
Schmucks.
Figure, sort of handsome, can get away with a lot because of his words, not anything he does in particular.
Yeah, and it's an interesting name, Autolycus. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, some guy named Shakespeare mentioned him too, and some. So. Anyway, but Cammy's going to give us a story featuring him based off of some old sources, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about him and some of the sources that we have of his existence. So, Cammy, lay us with that story.
Absolutely. So I used another Ovid piece, ovid.lib.virginia.edu, and then the Wikipedia page as well on Autolycus. Autolycus, son of Hermes, the trickster, the liar, the cattle thief. The god to his son imbued him with two gifts to aid in the mortal's trickery. First, he gave him the power to change his appearance at will. Second, he gave him the magic of cloaking his ill-gotten gains. And so the thief, like his father, enjoyed a life in his own terms, with little thought of consequence, until his cunning was matched. For Zeus, father of Hermes, through the Hellenes, was great-grandfather to a mortal so cunning he tricked death, and for his sin was forced to face eternity in perpetual yet pointless motion. Camus imagined him happy, but not this day, for King Sisyphus, once rich in cattle, daily faced his flock dwindling, and his neighbor, of more modest means, had a flock that grew daily. And though the cattle were not spotted like his own, and they were without horns, though his possessed him, the king was certain they were his. And when his flock diminished to less than half of its original number, and Autolycus' flock had grown to more than 4 times his original number, the crafty enemy of the gods marked his cow's hooves, so that he may know them, even when disguised through trickery. And on the very next morning, when Autolycus' flock was again larger, and his own again smaller, the king marched to the end of his own property and crossed the threshold to the wolf's lair. He found the liar, the thief, the trickster, and called him to the ill-gotten flock. And though our hero had beautiful words and elegantly crafted excuses as to why his wealth had grown so large, Sisyphus was ready with his one rebuttal. He lifted the hoof on one of the flock, and on it read his own crafty words, stolen by Autolycus.
It's my brand. What are you talking about? You can see Bruce Campbell doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I had a feeling that might be the story. It's one of the better stories. Apparently, that story of him stealing the cattle of Sisyphus. Sisyphus being definitely more famous than anyone else here. Sisyphus, of course, big rock coming down. Sisyphus pushes it up, keeps falling down. It's a metaphor, people, for life. So yeah, we definitely understand the suffering, the eternal suffering of Sisyphus. Which we did talk about Sisyphus, did we?
Yeah, we talked about the three. I don't know if we did Ixion, but we talked about Sisyphus and we talked about Tantalus, and cool. I think I had Sisyphus and Peter had Tantalus. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
So we have talked about that, but that kind of puts you in the realm of where Autolycus is involved, and he's stealing the cattle of Sisyphus before he goes to play with rocks. And apparently that's like a later source. So Britannica has a nice little write-up on Autolycus, and they specifically mention the story as a late source. So I would guess it's like a 280 source or something like that, maybe later. But they say that on one occasion, Sisyphus, during a visit to Autolycus, recognized his stolen cattle, and it is said that in revenge, Sisyphus seduces Autolycus's daughter, Anticleia, and that hence, I'm going to quote them verbatim, Odysseus was really the direct son of Sisyphus, not Laertes, whom Anticleia afterward married.
Yeah, but that would make him also Autolycus' son, our grandson, right? Because that was yes. Autolycus' daughter.
Yes.
So you have this sort of, I don't know. I mean, he's also, that puts him as Hermes' great grandson.
Yes. Either way,
and Zeus's great grandson, I believe. So crazy. You have this guy who's just trickery is his middle name.
Right.
Well, nobody is his name, but trickery is his middle name.
Right. Yeah. It's cool. So Britannica says that the object of this story was probably to establish the close connections between Hermes and these three persons, Sisyphus, Odysseus, Autolycus, who were the incarnate representations of those practices and qualities. So, Odysseus in the Odyssey, of course, has to go through lots of different feats of cunning, trickery, all sorts of that. So, yeah, it looks like it was sort of trying to establish this. I could see that, but it's interesting to see that it was later source. Yeah, Theoi, probably the first source I go to. They're just like, hey, yeah, Autolycus, yeah, we know him. He's the king, kingdom of Phocis. He's the king of there. That's it. That's all they really do. They do, of course. So they say, a thievish prince of Phocis in central Greece, the son of Hermes and Kuiene. So that was, that's it. That's all they got. So it didn't seem like he was super important to ancient Greeks. He's mentioned by many historians. Some we've talked about. One of the earlier ones is Gaius Julius Hyginus. The Fabulae of Hyginus is a source that we talked about before. This is kind of like a compendium of it's very brief myth and legends. It's just this dude. So
it's just stories. Yeah,
he 64 BC to 17 AD lived, and he just kind of was like just kind of popped out his own old Wikipedia page on these things just to get him out. Pausanias is a geographer from the 2nd century AD, a Greek geographer that talked about it too. That's what I always love. Geographers have to talk about this stuff because it's so important, to them. They're like, yeah, Autolycus, that explains this isthmus or whatever. But then, it's a ton of. There really isn't a ton of stories beyond that. It's talked about how everything else is sort of referencing minor stories where Autolycus is involved in. Heracles was apparently taught the art of wrestling by Autolycus. But they say Autolycus was a source of trouble for Heracles' life. Because Autolycus, who likes to steal cattle, stole some from Euobia and Eurytus, and they accused Heracles of the deed. After going mad from these accusations, Heracles killed them, and another one of Eurystheus' sons, Aphitus. This led to Hercules serving 3 years of punishment to repent. So, anger management for Heracles, and
he needs that.
Hide your cattle when you no Autolycus. What is he doing with all these cattle?
What do you
You're
do
already
with
a
cattle?
prince.
I don't know. I mean,
You milk them.
You don't slaughter them. Or you milk them. Okay. But some of them had horns. I guess so you can have... But I don't know how cows work. Maybe some...
Do you know how cows
lady
work?
cows have horns?
Comment below. Yeah.
Yeah, please. I have no idea.
There's got to be another podcast for that.
Vaca.
Right. So, it's just wild. So yeah, I mean, he was ended up being banished to the throes of Tartarus by the gods. And apparently, I mean, Sisyphus is also commonly known for being pretty schmucky himself. So, so Sisyphus was banished to Tartarus, where he pushes the rock. It doesn't say what Autolycus. They're just like, oh, he just stole cattle. Don't worry about him.
You know, because the way the Greeks viewed the afterlife was so different than how we view it. There wasn't like necessarily a place where you went. The Romans had the Elysian Fields. I'm not exactly sure how Greek worked, but people just went to, I guess, the River of Souls. I think it was not like how we view afterlife at all.
Yeah. No, I could see that.
And he was immortal, even though he was the son of Hermes.
Right. Yeah, and that's another thing. I think that would be more important. And I don't know. I guess that just gets you involved in these stories a little bit. Which we had a fantastic episode on Hermes a few months ago that we really loved. So I was surprised to see his kid is just so, I don't know. That's all he does is steal his cattle.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I think he's like a really great character.
He really is. I know,
if you want to write a story,
the ambiguity,
that's the character you play.
I mean, the ambiguity, like, because it's not set in stone, there's so much ambiguity. Yeah, it really helps kind of open it up to go wherever. All we hear is like master thief and conniving son of a gun, and and then Sisyphus, you're like, no, screw him. He killed people, and go pull a rock down. And I mean, yeah, and he's the grandfather of Odysseus. Apparently, Autolycus apparently named him as well. That's Wikipedia mentions that. Through Anticlea, Autolycus was also the grandfather of Odysseus, responsible for naming the child. When the nurse of the child, Euryclea, laid the child upon his knees and spoke and addressed him, Autolycus, find now thyself a name to give thy child's own child. Be sure he has been long prayed for. Then Autolycus answered, since I have been angered, Odysseus, with many, both men and women, let the name of the child be Odysseus.
What does it mean?
He just Odysseus. That's it. Just like
it is
just let him be
the
Odysseus.
cunning one.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was really wild. That was from Wikipedia's little blurb, which
he's like, I'm mad, so I'm gonna make this hard to pronounce.
Right. Yeah. That was directly from the Odyssey as well. That was from Homer's.
Oh, Homer. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that's. I mean, he's important enough. You got to kind of show the lineage, and I mean, because the lineage is really important in Greco-Roman stories. The Aeneid was all about lineage. Like that was the whole kind of point of the story in a lot of ways.
Right.
That was
you're tied to the gods, and you have the right to be king, and here's why, or emperor, I guess.
Yeah. So it's important to know Odysseus, and if he does cunning things, you're like, oh, that's that old grandson of Hermes at it again. So yeah, it was fun. I had not heard of this character before you mentioned it, so it was fun to look into. Yeah, very simple, not a lot going on with him, but it is really cool to see. And oh my gosh, yeah, just like if you've heard of him, you've seen him in a TV series or a movie. I completely forgot this movie existed. I don't know if you remember. In 2014, they released a movie called Hercules, where Dwayne Johnson played the character. And an actor,
but he plays everybody.
I know. Yeah, I briefly remember this movie. This is right after Kinley was born. So, but this guy Rufus Sewell plays Autolycus, and Rufus Sewell was in the second Mask of Zorro movie with Antonio Banderas. He was like the villain in it, and when I saw that, it just made me laugh to see this guy play in it. Anyway, it in a lot of, it's in video games, movies, probably one of the big things is Bruce Campbell playing him. So it's wonderful. Oh man.
If you can find the old Xena episodes with him in it, he always like saves the day in the weirdest ways, and he never really saves the day. He's always getting saved by somebody else, but it's just totally so funny. He's so
takes
funny.
The credit, yeah, it's really funny. So that covers what I've got on Autolycus. Cammy, thanks for thinking of that. That was a great topic to bring up for sure, to look into. So I think that's the last of the Greek stuff we've got for a little bit. We're going to change it up for the next few episodes. We'll continue to release bi-weekly. I think we've been doing well with, but if you have any suggestions on what we should talk about, let us know. Mythstorie is all one word with an IE instead of a Y at the end. So reach out to us. I'm Bryant. That's Cammy. We have our Facebook group as well, which you can reach out to us. MySpace.
You keep. I'll make one.
LinkedIn,
you keep saying that.
It's still there. It's still a website. It's for music, I think. Yeah. All right. I think that's all I've got. Cammy, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. Did you mention the his name? Like how it? I didn't hear it.
Oh, the like what it means. Yeah. No, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's so interesting. I've always wanted to name a dog this because Autolycus means the wolf itself. Yeah,
I think auto, self, lycos, like lichen, lycanthropy. Yeah, the wolf itself. Yeah, it is a really cool name, and I didn't even think about it. Yeah, isn't that wild? Isn't that badass? That's who you want to go on an Odyssey with, not Odysseus.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Autolycus. He's like
the
wolf guy.
I don't need wait Odyssey Autolycus. The Autolycus.
Right. Yeah. No, that is a really good way to put it out, and it's almost like a scientific name, like what do they call it? Binomial nomenclature. Yeah, Autolycus. Yeah, no, it's cool. So, well, there it is, the wolf itself we've discussed, and just like the wolf itself, we will end this episode as we always do. First, thanking you, and then saying we'll see you next time.